Netflix latest show from the creators of Sex and the City, Emily in Paris, is proof that American clichés on French people live strong. We're sex-obsessed and have a lot of it. We're chic and romantic, yet we're frivolous and likely accept a sex opportunity when one presents itself. Beyond the stereotypes, it's true that compared to Americans, we don't really care what our presidents do outside their marriage. And yes, we have billboards on the train advertising for dating apps, allowing for adulterous encounters. I once spoke to an American who told me she was kind of unsettled when she saw statues of naked women in Paris. "Cover this breast which I cannot behold," said a character from a 17th century comedy by French playwright Molière. The play makes fun of an attitude that is virtuous only on the surface. I think about the US and I wonder, what is the difference between truth and appearances? And precisely, are Americans really that awkward about sex?
Are Americans awkward about sex?
There is definitely an element of shyness and awkwardness.
I think I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, it's a secret that's kept from you.
First time I talked about sex with my parents was probably not until like late in high school, and I was leaving for college, and they bought me a box of condoms and left it at that. And it was a very awkward, strange moment.
Besides different parental behaviors, official sex education in public schools is a matter decided by states and individual jurisdictions. For a lot of people, it looks like this.
Here's how you put a condom on a banana thing.
I think we used some kind of fruit or vegetable or something.
Surprisingly, I relate to associating a banana with a penis since childhood, even though it's not a thing in France, and I learned about contraception with a good old biology textbook. In the meantime, sex education in the American public schools vary widely. According to pro-choice researchers in the Guttmacher Institute, 29 states require sex education to stress abstinence, and 19 states require instruction on the importance of engaging in sexual activities only within marriage. Whether sex is taught not to be had, or associated with shame and risks, it is more rarely seen through the lens of banality or pleasure.
Part of it has to do with some, holdover of these kind of very puritan values, right, that are all the way at the start of the formation of this country.
What's commonly called American Puritanism roots back to the settlers who, in the 17th century, came to America to found their ideal society in the New World. Anxious to build a culture that would outperform their English persecutors, Puritans created a world filled with religion and intolerance for deviants. Sex outside marriage, adultery, and other digressions were severely punished.
People still pass down from generation to generation what they learned, and unless people are consciously trying to change it, they just kind of go along with what they were taught.
And like that, a certain restrictive mentality still outlived the Puritans in some parts of the US.
They actually had us sign these contracts saying that we would wait until marriage. In exchange, they would give us a little lifesaver candy.
Abstinence-only education, but with a pop culture flavor.
I remember them trying to make the class seem like fun and lighthearted, so they would play that Sierra song at the beginning of the class to hype us up, and it's like, looking for the goodies, keep on looking, 'cause they stay in the jar.
And this is the beauty of the American paradox. Growing up, I often got the feeling that anything considered sexual and provocative was coming from American pop culture. I remember Britney and Madonna's legendary kiss and Janet Jackson's grand boob reveal on live TV. Popular rap and R&B tunes would be all about licking lollipops in haunted-style candy shops. Older well-known classics weren't necessarily wiser. I discovered when breaking puritan control and watching Basic Instinct with my brothers. And of course, there's straight-up pornography. So how do you explain the dichotomy?
Maybe, sex in our pop culture kind of fills this void that is created through our lack of conversations around sex, and it kind of serves as a substitution for it, which is not a healthy thing.
Pop culture does reflect aspects of contemporary sexual behaviors and the progressive liberation of American habits, but simultaneously, it also provides scripts for becoming adults.
We're all watching these high school shows and with these actors that are having sex. So there's this thought too that we should be having sex in high school.
From codes to be attractive to implicit rules about dating, Americans tend to turn everything sex-related into a verbal maze, whether it's vocally stressing some pronouns, the talk, the thing, to PDA, FWB, sex on the third date. Some are so confusing, Americans themselves don't agree.
You need a freaking dictionary to be an American referencing our sex lives.
If you ever want to start a big debate at an American party, you should ask people what is first base, what is second base, and what is third base, because everybody has a different answer.
To this day, I'm not sure I know what second base is.
You lost track? That's precisely the point. With shyness around sex comes a lot of unspoken rules.
How can you not think that something is like to be ashamed of or not okay to talk about when someone won't even say the word?
Anything that's coded to me means that you're not having a real conversation and you're not really getting to the root of what you need to be comfortable and safe and also have an enjoyable experience, right?
But for others, these rules are helpful.
They offer sort of a crutch, they give you a guideline, and so it makes something that can be sort of hard for us actually a little bit easier.
For many Americans, especially in college, engaging in the hookup culture is a way to escape this coded universe. Until having casual sex also became a rule to follow.
My friends and I all sort of have a common understanding of the idea of like a hoe phase or a slut period. You sleep around and you have sex casually and you sort of come to terms with what you like and what you don't like.
And it was like accepted, acceptable, almost expected. But even then, people didn't really know what they were doing or what they wanted to be doing. I decided that I didn't really like it. So I ended up stopping, taking some time to figure out what I really wanted.
According to researchers, the rise of hookup culture is one of the reasons women are having less sex, fearing the risk of an assault. And then there was Me Too, the moment where victims of sexual assault started to speak up, where words were liberated and listened to. It also allowed for the recognition that one can simply refuse a sexual encounter.
It gave us this new way to discuss sex, this new way to discuss, granted a negative version of sex, but it gave us this new opportunity to be heard and to express ourselves.
Today, pop culture also allows for more diverse conversations around sex. 50 Shades of Grey brought kink and BDSM into the mainstream, and more recently, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, two black women, firmly asserted their sexual desires with their tune WAP. In France, we raise a jeering eyebrow at this American newfound enthusiasm for consent. We view it as yet another version of puritanism. But what if words as simple as yes or no were the beginning of a new conversation around sex? What if the ability to choose was the real freedom, and Americans, the new libertines?